Hello, welcome everybody. And today we are joined by Peter McAuley, founder of Nomadic Watches, a brand steeped in nautical and maritime heritage connected with Belfast in particular. Good morning, Peter.
Hi Omar, yeah, thank you very much for having me on.
Our,
Great to
our
be here.
pleasure. Our absolute pleasure. It's good to connect. And I know it's your early morning over there, so thanks for making the time.
No, definitely you're all good. I've had my coffee. I'm raring to go.
Caffeinated, excellent.
Yep.
Well, look, we'd love to start by hearing a little bit more about you, I guess, on a
Yeah.
personal level and your background before coming up to the launch of the brand. So it would be
Yeah.
you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, for sure. I was a mechanical engineer, so I worked for years manufacturing aerospace components and railway components and lots of very high accuracy, and I sort of specialized in things that were difficult to make. I was a project engineer, so I used to work on manufacturing processes essentially. So always had that mind for how things work, mechanical things, and an interest in that. And I sort of realized then maybe my interest was more in the business side of things than it was in engineering. So I went back to uni and did my degree in business, and that was where I sort of got the passion for business. And then it took me another few years to sort of piece together that love for watches and the love for business, and come up with the concept for Nomadic, and start to put that out there. So that was kind of a bit about how I got started with the brand and the idea behind it. And I think yeah, we'll probably touch on a lot more of that as we go on.
Yeah, it's interesting. So curiously, what was the spark connecting your engineering and business background into the world of watchmaking and horology? I mean, I appreciate watch brands are businesses and successful
Yeah,
ones are run as businesses rather than simply passion projects.
yeah,
We've seen many, micro brands come and go over the years as a result of probably not having enough business acumen behind them to sustain them going forward.
yeah,
So it's an
yeah.
interesting leap, but what was the spark that got it moving to nomadic?
Yeah, so for me, like I always say, a luxury watch, and any luxury watch, it's about telling a story more than it is about telling the time. There's always a reason why you bought it. There's always a connection there, or of some level, whether it's celebrating a milestone or a birthday or a gift for someone or from someone special. And it's about telling those stories. And I thought that, for me, no one was really telling our story from here in Belfast. And for me, I lived in England for about 10 years or so, and I always kind of wished I had something to just connect me back to those roots. And albeit I wasn't living that far away from home, but I wished I kind of had something to link me back to home and my roots. And for me, I think that's what I wanted Nomadic to be, is that little piece of home for anyone who kind of lives across the world and has some sort of connection or links to Belfast or to Ireland in general, that they can have a brand there to kind of connect with and make that thing. So that was where I sort of got the spark that, yeah, there's an opportunity here. No one is really doing that. No one's telling our story, and we could do that in a really meaningful way.
Interesting. So it's almost going back to the origin, really, in terms of that connection,
De-
the emotional connection.
Definitely, yeah, and and another part of it as well was kind of my, once I started digging into it and really getting into the world of watches. As everyone in the micro brand world will know, that the large brands are just really have pretty insane markups, and I just knew from my manufacturing background that there's no way it costs that much to make that piece, no matter how high the quality level. So I knew that we could make something really incredible at not a ridiculous price.
that's probably your business now coming into play there, recognizing the
Yeah,
ROI and the percentage profits that they are making on these pieces. But
yeah,
you're
yeah,
absolutely right. I mean, the value proposition often gets quite lost with the
yeah.
established brands. And of course, they are bigger machines and they need more funding. I get that.
Of course, yeah,
Particularly
yeah.
on marketing budget alone, that they spend a lot of money.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it makes it incredibly more challenging for people such as yourself to really establish a brand. Um, so a question to you on this: why do you think there aren't more brands hailing out of Ireland?
Yeah, I guess it's traditionally, particularly Belfast, where we're from, is has quite a rich history of industry and engineering. So a lot of the much more heavy industry side of things. So like the Titanic was built in Belfast. We've got a really rich kind of shipbuilding industry and a really rich kind of linen industry was massive, and a whole host of others kind of heavier sort of industries. So there is that sort of heritage of craftsmanship, but through the sort of years, it's got a little bit diluted and a little bit lost. And I think there isn't that specialization in watchmaking. The skills aren't necessarily here, but the skills for precision components are here. There's a lot of aerospace industry still here and a lot of things. So I was pretty confident in the competencies of our local engineers to be capable of actually building something like this. But I suppose in terms of the watch industry, it's just I guess traditionally is that sort of Swiss and British influence is huge, and I guess no one's really. And there have been watchmakers in the past in Ireland. There are still some today. There's some super high end guys that we've got incredible respect for, like McGonigal and those guys, and Stephen McDonnell from MB&F fame and another he's an incredible mind for watchmaking. So there is a little bit of that sort of history there. But we wanted to bring something that was kind of, I mean, a really high quality product, but a bit more accessible to most people.
Yeah, yeah. No, and it shows in your design language as well. I mean, you mentioned the Titanic there, and I suppose that brings us onto the name no Nomadic. Do you want to
Yeah,
tell us how you landed on that in particular? I mean, I know you keep nodding to the maritime
yeah,
industry, but it would be good to hear how you arrived at that point.
yeah. So the place there, I used to work right in the kind of um docks area, and there's that's like right where Titanic was built, and the shipyard that built it still exists today, and they have these massive yellow cranes, and they're called Samson and Goliath. So they just kind of tower over the whole city, like to give a sense of scale of them. I think the larger one, Samson's like is taller than Big Ben, so they are just a big icon of the skyline here. So I used to work right in that area, and the Titanic hotel is now sort of been they've refurbished the old drawing offices of Harland and Wolff, which was the shipyard, and they've made it into this fantastic hotel. And I used to go there kind of after work and sit there in the drawing room and just kind of soak up the inspiration when I was sketching the designs and things like that and coming up with the concepts for Nomadic. And right outside the hotel, they have a dry dock where they have the SS Nomadic, and the SS Nomadic was actually the tender ship for Titanic. So it would have like ferried the first and second class passengers out to the ship because Titanic was so big at the time, you couldn't actually get into most ports. So they would have to kind of anchor it a little bit offshore and then ferry the passengers back and forth. So Nomadic was that ship that brought the passengers across. And we were walking past that ship every day, and it just eventually it just kind of clicked. And when I thought about the name more and more, I wanted it to be something that would stand on its own. So if you don't know anything about Belfast, you don't care about that sort of side of things, it's just a cool name that stands on its own. It stands for that sense of adventure. It stands for the ruggedness and robustness that we're all about. But when you start to dig beneath the surface, it's got those richer and deeper connections there, and that's what I sort of wanted it to be, and that's where we got the name Nomadic from.
Yeah, absolutely. I could see how it serves so many multiple purposes, and it, I guess you were blessed because the name was right under your nose, literally the whole time. But
Yeah,
but
yeah,
but but
yeah,
as you say, I mean, it's a very meaningful word in itself. and
Yeah.
applies very well to the whole adventurous spirit, which is inherent in the DNA of your watches. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's a very nice name, but it's lovely to know that little bit of background as to how you came up with it. So very good. All
Yeah,
right, so
that's
that
it.
brings
It's
us
all about those meanings and bringing it through.
absolutely. It's I mean, going back to the point you said earlier, it's all about, that message and that connection with brands and understanding what's going on behind the scenes. So snippets like this are really good to know. Um,
Yeah.
so that brings us on to the launch. You left your business sort of acumen behind. You decided to jump into the deep end of
Yeah.
watchmaking, and you launched the brand, and you've since had several releases, but perhaps we can go through them
Yeah.
in chronological order. So your first, it's a dive watch, I believe, the first one
Yeah.
you released.
Yep. Yeah. So our first watch was a dive watch. It's called the Mirai 401. So Mirai means seafarer in Irish. And then 401 is like a little reference to Titanic. So it was the 401st ship to be built in the shipyards here. And it was that
All right.
reference number
Okay.
401. So we carried that through into the watch
I
in
was
a
going to
subtle way.
ask you
So it's the
what those numbers meant after the names. Okay,
yeah.
so are
Yeah.
they
So they're
all nods to
so
certain? Oh,
yeah,
right,
yeah. So
interesting. Okay,
they all have a meaning. They all have a nod there. So that's kind of how we carried that through, and it's very much a classically designed dive watch,
yeah.
and as I think probably soaking up some of that atmosphere from um the shipbuilding industry and that sort of environment. It was very much kind of less is more, and the initial designs were very busy, and there was everything kind of packed on there, and we just pared it back until we landed on something quite subtle, quite refined, um, but not but with our own little sort of twists on it. So we launched the Mirai in what was it, 2021. At
Yeah.
that point in time, it was very much a passion project for me. It was a side thing. I still had a full-time career, a young baby and everything. So it was a side project. And when we launched it, I thought, well, at least I'll have some great watches that I'll love, and if other people like them too, that's cool. But yeah, they started to gain traction really quickly and really popular. So it took us about a year or so before I then went full time into the business. At which point I sort of had like I just had we just had our second baby.
Oh,
I came home to my
congratulations.
wife, and she had our little girl, was maybe like 4 weeks old or something. And I was like, right, we're going full time into Nomadic, and she was like, really, is this the perfect time for it? So um, the time is never going to be perfect, so we just had to go all in on it. And since we have went all in, things have just gone from strength to strength. And when you're able to give it all of your focus, well, that's where we're able to drive things forward and push it out there to a wider audience.
That's fantastic. I mean, I've got two little ones myself, and having to run a business, I totally can appreciate and empathize with the amount of sacrifice, lack of sleep, and
Yeah.
fatigue that you must have gone through in those early stages. How big is the team now, by the way? It would be good to sort of get a sense for you guys. I know you're sat in your
Yeah.
beautifully
Yeah,
decorated
so sat in our
HQ right now.
this is our boutique, our HQ. So just through that sort of glass door, that's our assembly facility. So our watchmakers are in there actually working on a couple of custom projects right now. For one for a football team and one for um, a a local business as well that's celebrating their 30th anniversary. So we're making some custom pieces for those guys. But yeah, the team there's 8 of us now. Started with just myself, and yeah, we've sort of grown quite rapidly over the last couple of years. So yeah, so we're up to 8 now, and it's growing even further. We've got a couple of key hires we need to make now, so we're pushing things forward. And yeah, the the dive watch, I've got one here, but we'll be able to show some other footage. This is the watch that sort of started it all, and this is
Yeah.
the Emerald Abyss edition. It's got this sort of really deep green color to it, and that's our most popular watch by almost 2 to 1.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. It's it's the classic design, right? So it's
Yeah,
hard to
yeah,
to go wrong. Yeah. So
Yeah,
after the Mirai,
yeah,
the design language moved on a little bit.
yeah,
And I know you started straddling between the sort of dive slash dress watch
yeah,
pieces. I guess people
yes,
call them desk divers nowadays, but that
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
realm. So was it the
yeah.
Turas that led to the Turas? Is that correct?
Yeah, so that led us to our second watch was the Turas. So again, when it comes to design, like I always start with the story first and then build the design around it. So with the Turas, we wanted to tell the story of the 1914 Trans-Antarctic expedition. So that was Ernest Shackleton and Tom Crean and this kind of band of British and Irish sailors who tried to go at the time to cross Antarctica and make it all the way across. It hadn't been done at that time for someone to go, from one side or the other through the South Pole in one journey. So they tried to do this crossing. Their ship got trapped in the ice and they tried to sort of wait it out until they could get free again. But eventually the ice got too thick and it crushed the boat and sunk. And there was only then a couple of lifeboats remaining for these 22 men to kind of survive in. And it became this amazing story of survival. And it took them about 2 years before they actually managed to make it off the ice in to find dry land in Elephant Island, which was completely uninhabited, and then they had to make this another inspiring boat journey, sort of touted as the greatest boat journey ever made. Just this little life raft to make like 150, I think, nautical miles across from Elephant Island to South Georgia Island, with nothing but a watch and a sextant to navigate. So we wanted to tell that story, and everyone survived off it. So it became this amazing leadership story, and amazing survival story, and grit and determination. And when they made it back eventually to Britain, no one really cared all that much because it was right in the middle of World War One. There was a huge amount of things going on, and no one really cared about the story, and it was almost uh, being forgotten about, and was starting to now come back into the forefront. So we wanted to tell that story with the watch. So all of the design language of the Turas is kind of themed around that golden age of the gentleman explorer and that kind of thing. So that the texture on the dial has this kind of
It's like a
ice effect, and
glacier
it's
crack
like a
effect. Yeah,
glacier
it's
kind of
beautiful.
crackled
Yeah,
ice kind of thing,
yeah.
and that's really what represents that. So it's called the Turas 914, and the Turas means expedition in Irish, and then 914 is that little reference to 1914 when the expedition set off. So told you the numbers all had a meaning.
Fantastic. It's a
Yeah.
fantastic story. It sounds like a Hollywood blockbuster, to be honest with you. I
It,
mean,
it is, yeah. I
if
think
it hasn't been
yeah,
done, it really should be. And you should probably
absolutely.
throw in some nomadic watches into the into the expedition.
Yeah, absolutely. There's
Um,
some amazing books. If anyone is interested, there's some great books on the topic, and it's almost unbelievable. You read it and you think this has to be this is fiction, and it's not. It's just an incredible tale.
yeah, yeah. And I've seen those models because you have the white dial variant and there's a black dial variant as well.
There's a black dial variant. Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
I love this the size. I mean, the dial is beautifully done. I mean, as you say, it's got that glacier effect, and it's just really well executed. I think there's a little highlight of yellow as well, if I'm not mistaken, with the
Yeah,
second
with
hand
the
sort of.
second hand, yeah,
Yeah, it's just,
yeah,
and even the font of the numerals just works really well. It's
yeah.
it's a beautiful put together package. So so from that, I suppose, and when did that come out, Peter? That piece
So
was it last
that
year?
came out. It was around about this time last year. Yeah, I think it
Yeah.
was September, October time last year, and we did a big launch event at our HQ, and we got the watch, the first piece, and froze it into a big block of ice as an ice sculpture. And then when we kind of revealed it and showed the watch still ticking, still moving, working in the frozen kind of block of ice, it was quite a cool moment to see, and everyone I think thought it was fake, and then when they got up close, they could see it. Oh, that's a real watch! It's still in there. It's still working. So it was a nice proof point for the brand as well.
Fantastic. Yeah, and testament to how rugged you make your watches. If it's all about, the embracing the expeditions of the outdoors and so on. So
Yeah.
Excellent piece of marketing as well. I love the idea. Very innovative. So
Oh,
then that
thank you.
brings us on to your most recent piece, right? Which
Yeah.
was released earlier this year. There it is, the
Yeah.
Fior 555.
Yes. Yeah, so that brings us forward, fast forward nearly a year. So this watch has been in development for a long time. These things always take a little bit longer than what I think, and it's always worth just taking the time to get things right and not rushing them through into production before they're really ready. But this watch is our first GMT watch,
Mm.
something we've been so excited to get. There's been so much kind of people. It's the one thing that people have asked us for the most over this last year. When are you bringing a GMT? And we wanted to bring something that would sort of do that style of watch justice. So with Fior, it's called the Fior 555, and Fior means true in Irish, and 555 is a little reference to the part of the coordinates of Belfast. So we're at 55.5 degrees west. So we wanted to kind of bring that through, and on the reverse of the watch, it's sort of captured there on the rotor. So you'll not be able to see it here, but we'll show some images. But we've brought through like a little compass
Mm.
into the rotor. So the theme of this watch is really all about staying true to your roots, and no matter what, wherever that is for you, no matter where you're from and where you travel, you can always set your GMT hand back to home. So for us, it's about setting it back to Belfast time or to Irish time, and if you're but no matter where you're from, you can set it back to your own time zone or your home time zone. It's about staying true to your roots. So that's really what this piece is all about. So our little GMT hand is yellow again. So we always have this little yellow reference, and that's in reference to those giant cranes I was kind of talking about. So it's a nice kind of,
Yeah.
if you know, kind of feature about
Yeah.
our watches, and it looks great, but it's also got that little significance. And when you're wearing it, it just kind of makes me smile to look down and see that little feature. Um, so yeah, we brought the design again, quite classical, but carrying that design language through. So the blockiness of the numerals at 12, that's carried through from the Turas. So it sort of has this feel to it that they're all part of a collection, and that's something that's quite important to me as well as we start to build. Nomadic as a brand, we're building a brand that's going to really put Belfast on the map for watchmaking. That's what our mission is, and we want the brand at each line in it to feel cohesive.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
feel like it's part of a collection.
Harmony. It's harmony across the collection. Yeah. Yeah. I
That that
totally,
that that's
totally.
it. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I always say, like if we were an ice cream shop, we'd be wanting to really get an amazing chocolate, strawberry, and vanilla, and get those core flavors done before you start doing all your kind of crazy,
Yeah.
weird, wacky, wonderful flavors. So
Yeah.
we're really building out that core collection of watches first before we then push things even further into more design language, and that's what we're trying to do with this sort of core collection with our Mirai, our Taurus, and now the Fior 555. And we just launched it a couple of weeks ago, and we actually hosted the launch party on board
It was
the SS Nomadic.
aboard the ship, wasn't it?
It was
Yeah.
aboard the
Yeah.
ship, yeah. So it was so cool, and it's a World Heritage site, so they don't just kind of rent it out to anyone. So we had to go through quite a long process of actually speaking with the owners of the ship and the Titanic Titanic Belfast, which own the sort of museum there. They own the ship, and they were very kind enough to let us use it for the
Yeah.
event. And it was just, you couldn't have picked a better setting for it. It was fantastic, and that we got an amazing evening with the weather as well. So it was just great to be on board the ship with so much character and history around it,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
for us to reveal the watch on it was a really special moment.
Yeah, I saw pictures and videos of the event, and I think it was streamed live as well, wasn't it? So
Yeah,
I mean, which was
yeah, we
again quite different and innovative from you guys. I haven't seen other brands doing a live stream of
yeah.
the launch party, which was very cool. So look, in showing
Well,
the
thank you.
555, I know you just hinted at the rotor, and that's something I wanted to talk to you about because you guys come up with some really cool rotor designs.
Yeah,
So on this one, it's a compass, right? Or
yeah,
it's a
yeah.
design
It's
of
like
a
a it's like
compass
a
on the rotor,
it's the design of a compass. Yeah, yeah, on the rotor. So
uh,
um,
which is beautiful. I mean, it's just nice to look at, and it's definitely a
yeah,
USP
yeah,
as well. And you have a propeller design as well, which I thought was very cool
that's right.
on the
Yeah.
previous
So
model.
our Mirai range, yeah, it's got that. I'm trying to get the light onto it now. It's got that propeller
Yeah,
in there, so that yeah is obviously after that the shipbuilding in the industry, and it's just a cool feature that you don't get to look at it all the time, but it's under there and you can take it
yeah,
off
yeah.
and
Well,
it's
nerdy
yeah
watch collectors will inevitably play and see it spin
that
around, but
that's it. I have it probably off my wrist as much as I have it on the wrist, to be
yeah.
honest.
And is the
But
idea to
yeah,
have, a unique rotor design for each model going forward?
yeah. I think it's something that we um, like to try and bring through into the designs. It brings a bit of character. It's fun and it's unique and it also allows us to be a little bit more creative. I think when you try to push things too far on a dial, it becomes to the point where it maybe a lot of it can be quite Marmite. People will either love it or hate
Yeah,
it, and,
yeah.
and
Too
and it can
busy and
turn
too
a lot
much
of
going
people
on.
off. So
Yeah.
it's too there's too much going on. Yeah, you're right. And where the underside, that's our chance to be a little bit more creative and make it a bit more fun without complicating the watch too much and making it something that you don't want to wear. I want it to be a watch that you can
Mm,
wear for any occasion and not feel out of
mm,
place.
mm.
And that's where the underside comes into play.
Well, speaking of making dials a bit too busy, I think this leads us on nicely to your customization offering and
Yeah,
department. So it's very, obvious and visible on your website. You take
yeah,
pride in the fact that you can offer customizations. To
yeah,
what level of customizations can you really go? I mean, I appreciate you're in
yeah.
growth mode, you're establishing yourselves, you're growing the team, but I mean, how difficult of a challenge are you willing to take on at this point?
I suppose at this point it kind of depends on the project and who it's for and what the vision of the client is for the piece. We've done some where we've done some quite cool things with custom rotors and custom dials and even custom bezels and things. And it depends on a little bit on quantities and things like that as well. Some things it doesn't really make sense to do as a one-off or a small sort of quantity, but for larger quantities, it then can start to make sense. You can yeah, we've done quite a few. Some projects we can't really talk about, and other ones we can. We've done a range of different sort of military and police organizations. They would like to try and keep things quite confidential
Of
amongst
course,
their
yeah,
sort of members for obvious reasons,
yeah.
especially in Northern Ireland. But for more sort of public facing businesses and football teams and that sort of thing, we've done a really fun collaboration with a local football team, Carrick Rangers, which is kind of my hometown. And we actually made the timing bezel set up for a football match. So it kind of their colors are black and orange. So we made the bezel sort of black all the way around for 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and then it goes orange into overtime.
Mm,
So it's set up for time in the match, and
that's
it
cool.
works
Yeah.
really well. And they brought through the orange from their colors into an orange seconds hand and their sort of logo onto the dial as well, and it just made a really fun piece and just looks fantastic as well. So the guys are building some of them next door, so they can be delivered tomorrow. So yeah, it's quite an exciting one to work on. And we've done quite a few others like that as well. So yeah, it's something as well that for us we love taking on a challenge of something a little bit new, a little bit different, and it helps push us forwards in terms of our design language as well, and our even working with different materials. We work with a real VIP client of ours, and he wanted to do a piece in Damascus steel, and we hadn't worked with that before, and we said, like, this might take us a little bit of time to kind of get it right. It's a notoriously difficult material to work with from a manufacturing standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, he was willing to work with us and to wait on it, and it took us a few attempts to get it right, but we ended up with something really incredible. And I think we just made uh, maybe a handful of pieces for him and his friends and family. So that was a really special project for us to
Yeah.
work on. And again, it's pushed us forward, so we now know how to work with that material, and we can do it again, sort of thing.
Do you have a minimum order quantity for special orders and customizations, or does it just
We,
vary again on project to project
not
basis?
really. We try not to. I mean, a lot of the times it'll be sort of cost prohibitive. You can make a one off of anything, but it might cost
Of course,
an
yeah,
insane
yeah,
amount, and
yeah.
it just becomes not viable. So we don't have a specific set quantity, but often when we come to work through um, the costings of the project, we'll say, this is the price if we want to do X, and this is the cost if we want to do, only a small number, and it often ends up being cost prohibitive to do, small quantities, but we have done it. We've done one-offs, like one custom one of ones before, and yes, they're a little bit more expensive, but they end up with something really
Within reason. Yeah,
really
yeah, yeah.
within reason, yeah, and something really incredible, and it depends on what you want to do as well.
And look, how much of this is done in-house? I mean, how much of the workmanship, the manufacturing elements, whether it's the
Yeah,
cases or whether it's elements of the movement, the dials, etc. How much is done
yeah,
in-house?
yeah.
And how much do you sort of rely upon, external third-party suppliers?
Yeah, so as we've sort of we're growing now, we're starting to rely less on third party suppliers, but we still, yeah, very a lot of, most of the watch is all outsourced really, and what we do in house is all of the assembly, all of the regulation of the movements, all of the quality testing, pressure testing, and all of that side of things. So we're hand building everything, but in terms of the manufacturing, it's all outsourced, and then our movements and everything's come from Salida. But what we're trying to do now that we kind of are a little bit bigger and we have a bit more scale is actually bring the manufacturing to Belfast. So we've been meeting with local CNC machining companies to start to bring more of those components home, essentially, and the view to bringing that manufacturing in house eventually as we grow forward, and that's partly because I'm extremely passionate about local manufacturing. It's my background. It's what I'm excited about. And if we can machine almost everything here, that's what we want to do. So that's very much our mission. Are we there yet? No, we're not, but we're very much making pretty impressive
Yeah,
strides towards it. I think for
it's a
3 years.
marathon. It's a marathon, not a sprint with these things.
That
And you're
that's
still
it.
a young brand with a long road ahead of you. But I suppose, in answering my last question, you sort of did a full circle and came back to your roots. It's all about the origins and, pointing back to the homeland and bringing back the manufacturing to what is historically a very strong industrial and manufacturing market and place.
Yeah,
Makes a lot of
yeah,
sense. Absolutely.
yeah. That's it. And that's what we want to do. But it's trying to do that sensibly without compromising on quality and with not having a local supply chain that really specializes in these things. It's going to take us a little bit of time, but we're getting there, and I'm quite excited about what the next 12 months hold for us. We have some pretty exciting plans that we're executing now in Q4 that's going to really set us up for 2025. So it's yeah, it's exciting times.
Can you release any small exclusives whilst we have you?
Well, yeah, I can let you in on a new watch that we're bringing to market pretty soon. So this is going to be a 36 mil sports watch, and it's a it's a really stunning piece. The very first one we made has had a aventurine dial with diamonds around, and we actually brought it to the launch event on the SS Nomadic, and I gave the very first one to my mum as a 60th birthday present.
Oh, wow.
So the one that I have here is a mother of pearl dial, and it's sort of, yeah, quite classically styled, quite um elegant, and there's a few. This is a prototype. We have a few changes to make to it, but yeah, it's very much in that sort of classically theme with the sub seconds hand, and made the crown as kind of flush as possible to the case to really sort of bring it all together. So yes, super excited to bring these out, and we're hoping to launch them for pre-orders um sort of in November time, so we can have things ready just about in time for Christmas to bring these through. So yeah, super excited to bring this out, and this is called the Kior 928, which means searching in Irish. So it's all about sort of searching for meaning, searching for adventure, searching for the next thing, and that's very much, yeah, what this watch is kind of all about. And yes, this is mother of pearl. We'll have a range of different dial types as well. One with a really nice texture in the center and a couple of different colors. Some that'll suit sort of male and female audiences as well. So I think yeah, it's going to be a really fun piece to bring out.
Oh, that's beautiful. And what do the numbers represent on this one?
Yeah, so 928 is a little reference to 1928, which was when there's an incredible lady called Lady Mary Heath, and she was like the first kind of I guess kind of like a little bit like the Irish Amelia Earhart. Is maybe maybe her better known counterpart in the US, and she was very much a pioneer of her time. So she was like a female pilot, which didn't really exist in those days, and she was the first person to fly from a British colony back to Britain. So she flew a solo flight in 1928 from South Africa to Ireland, and sort of was the first person to really do that. But she also had this amazing, she was an athlete as well, and founded the Female British Athletics Association, and she was part of the war effort as well. She was like a motorcycle dispatch rider, and just when you read into the history of this woman, she was absolutely incredible, and we wanted to, but very much almost forgotten, and we wanted to sort of tell her story and bring that through with this watch, and sort of mark that in a meaningful way.
That's fantastic. Again, nodding to history. So it's inherent across all the collection. That's great to hear.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the new watch will be available for order November, you said, and hopefully rolling
Yeah.
out in December.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so that's
Yeah.
pretty soon. Okay.
We've got a busy Q4 ahead for watchmaking with the Fior, and then the Kior, all both sort of coming through assembly at the same time. So it's gonna push us, but we're more than ready for it. We've been expanding the watchmaking team. There's two watchmakers now. We've actually got a third joining us very very soon, and we're ramping up that production capacity as well.
Very good to know. Peter, I was just going to ask you actually, what are the retail prices for the Fior 555 and the newer model Cure, and what are the sort of lead times and delivery times for the
I'll give you the prices in British pounds if that's okay. I don't have the
that's
US
fine.
dollar
We can do the
prices
conversions.
committed to memory, but yeah. So in pounds, the Fior, the GMT is starts at 1595, and then there's a gold plated version as well, which is 2100, and then with the Kior, the 36 mil watch is gonna start from 1250. So that'll be with the sort of standard dial and no diamonds or anything, and then the sort of top of the range one of that with the aventurine dial and the full sort of 65 points of diamond on there is going to be 2750.
Okay. Okay. And you mentioned the Cure delivery time is hopefully December. Is
Yeah,
Fior a
so
similar timeline?
Fior similar, yeah. So Fior should be ready by sort of end of November, and Kior, yeah, should be delivered in December. So
Excellent. Okay. Well, anyone watching, if they're interested, I'll put up the prices actually on the post edit, so they're all there, and we'll have
brilliant,
a
yeah,
link as well in the description of the video, so anyone who wants to place an order can go there. Look, it was a pleasure speaking with you, and we're almost coming up to our time actually, but we have some questions from the wider community. I hope you don't mind if you've got a few more minutes. I can throw some questions your way.
yeah, for sure. Glad to answer the questions.
Excellent. So I might look down just to read out the questions for
Yeah,
you,
far
but
away. Yeah,
we might have covered some of these already, and if that's the case, you could just gloss over it. That's fine.
yeah, yeah,
What inspired you to name your watch brand after the SS Nomadic? We did that bit, but
yeah,
how does
yeah,
the history influence your designs?
yeah. So obviously we talked about the SS Nomadic and that. It's a name that stands on its own, but it's also got those deeper meanings, and I think that sort of carries through into our designs. I wanted the watches and the designs to stand on their own as just a great looking, classically styled watch. And when you dig beneath the surface, that's where those deeper meanings come through. So the little yellow seconds hand is our sort of nod to the cranes, and then the wordings of the names of the watches and the numbers and little features like that, and then the rotors. That's where we start to bring in those meanings. So it's very much themed, I guess, the same as the styling for the brand that it carries through into the watch design as well.
Yeah, yeah. No, again, I mean, I know we touched on it, but it's clear to see the nod to maritime as well, and I think
Yeah.
that was great, continued throughout the pieces. Makes absolute sense. Um, the next question, what aspects of your watches, such as the GMT models, are your personal favorite and why?
Oh yeah, great question.
Hard to ask
Yeah.
someone to pick their baby out of a lineup, but
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, I like the green. So for me, in the dive watch, it's the emerald bit. In the GMT again, it's the emerald bit. It's the greens.
it's the true
Yeah,
Irish style.
yeah, it's that
Yeah,
Irish stuff, and I think it
yeah.
just works. I think it's fun, but it's quite a dark green, so it looks nearly black a lot of the time. So you can wear it with most things and kind of get away with it, and then whenever the sun kind of shines, you get that big sort of pop of green. So yeah, for me, that those are the ones.
Excellent. Okay. Look, we didn't mention this actually during the bulk of the interview, but actually, Nomadic has won numerous awards and accolades for its business enterprise. I think you got Telegraph's best, what was it? Emerging Business of the
Yeah,
Year,
emerging business of the year. Yeah, and
Young Business
best new
Leader of the
startup.
Year, which is more
Yeah,
personal to you.
yeah,
So lots of business accolades, which is great because as I mentioned earlier, I think watch brands need to be treated as businesses to sustain the P&Ls and cash flows and all of these sort of budgetary
yeah,
restraints
yeah,
that micro brands have. But uh, it's interesting that it's dominated by a business lens rather than a watch lens. And
yeah, yeah.
I'd like to hear from you actually, do you see a switch more onto the watch side now that you're a more established brand than perhaps you were a few years back?
Yeah, I think they're very much intertwined things. If you don't have a sustainable business model, then you can't do anything with your watches. You can't reach people. You can't design anything cool, and you can't really achieve what you want to achieve. So you need to have a solid business model before you can kind of do anything else. In my view, anyway, and that's certainly how we try to run Nomadic. So yeah, very much they're sort of intertwined for us. Yeah, we've won a few kind of business awards because I think what we're doing within the watch world is a little bit different, but probably not. You know, the designs are not completely groundbreaking in terms of what we're doing as a watch. But what we're doing as a business in Ireland is quite unique. There aren't really many other businesses or really anyone really doing what we're doing at our price point. So that's why we're sort of winning the business awards, because what we're doing for Belfast and Belfast watchmaking is really unique, and that's where we're putting ourselves on the map. That, you know, everyone can recall the big Swiss brands all come to mind straight away. There's some heavy hitters in England that come to mind straight away when you think watches, but there isn't that sort of big brand that you think of when you think Ireland and you think watches. So that's where we want to be, and that's what we want to put Belfast on that map for watchmaking. So that's the sort of the reason with the business awards.
I suppose my natural follow-up question to that, and this goes hands in hand with actually a couple of the questions which have come in, are looking towards the future.
Yeah,
You've positioned yourselves as a sustainable and great offering at that price point. You
yeah,
mentioned
yeah.
high horology in Switzerland and England and so forth. Do you have plans to maybe raise the bar in terms of horology? You mentioned, the designs are classical at the moment, but do you have
Yeah, yeah.
some crazy idea in your mind that you think you want to see a reality, which could be a new direction for the brand?
Yeah, definitely. You know, as we evolve the brand and push our designs forward, you know, we're finding our feet more and more with our own design language, and we want to try and push that a little bit further and a little bit further every time with each new model that we bring to market. And I think where I really see the brand, where I see the brand over the next 3 to 5 years is sort of being that core staple of a watch brand, and setting a name for ourselves as the Irish watch brand. I suppose that's where what we're trying to do is put us on the map for that, and I think that's, you know, we want to be competing in amongst the kind of the big heavy hitters of the industry to do that. So yeah, it's exciting times as we push things forward, but we're very clear on our mission, and I'm very fortunate to have an amazing team behind me that we're all super passionate about that mission and driving it forwards. And that's, you know, you can do some pretty cool things on your own, but if you want to go fast, that's great. But if you want to go far, you need to go together, and you need to do it together, and that's what we're finding with the brand.
How would you personally feel about collaborating either with another brand or with an artist or something to do a release? I mean, we're seeing this more and more in the industry, right? You have
Yeah, yeah,
IFL, Seconde's done a few. There
yeah,
seems to be
yeah,
more and more like collab projects going on in the watch
yeah,
world. Do
yeah.
you see yourselves doing something with someone in the near future?
For sure, yeah. We actually have a couple of collaboration projects in the works in kind of early stages.
All
But
right.
so
Okay.
so 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 definitely it's something that we want to do. But for us, it needs to make sense and it needs to be authentic. It's not about slapping a logo on for anybody and just kind of making a collaboration for the sake of it. And you know, we've been approached a few times with other companies, and sort of turned them down because it just wasn't aligned, and it just wouldn't make sense for us to do
Yeah.
it. But for the right collaborations, where we can add some value to them and they can add value to us, it makes sense to do something cool together. So yeah, we've got a couple of projects which are, yeah, probably a bit too early to actually mention anything about, but we're
Sure.
we're
Sure. No,
we're,
I
we're working
understand.
on it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, that's exciting. That's very
yeah.
exciting. It's cool and hip. Look, I'd like to sort of talk about where you would personally like to be in, say, 5 years' time with the brand. Ending on that note, what's the sort of the vision?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously some there's brands that we would look up to. So for us, you know, I think that success leaves clues, and I think that for us, guys like Bremont and guys like Christopher Ward are and fairer to an extent as well are sort of brands that we would look up to as having trailblazed the path in terms of Christopher. What they've done for e-commerce as a watch brand was revolutionary. Like, people did not buy watches online 15 years ago until Christopher Ward have really sort of blazed that trail, and I think that we're by that, so we want to follow their direction in terms of that. I think what Bremont have done in terms of like reshoring a lot of manufacturing back to England and bringing things in house is pretty amazing, and we want to sort of look at that and try and learn from that as well. And I know they've come under a little bit of criticism in more recently, I suppose, but
Yeah, they've had
I think
various management
they've had a
changes. Yeah, yeah.
interesting changes of management, and we'll learn from that as well. So I think there's brands that we look up to, and we want to take the best of what other people are doing and learn from it and put our own spin on it and do it our way. But that's how we kind of see ourselves, I suppose, over the next few years is up into that ballpark and playing with those bigger heavy hitters in the industry and rubbing shoulders there is where we want to be.
I'm sure, look, given your current trajectory, you're well on your way, and we wish you the very best of luck with that journey, and we'd love to be a part of it. So let us keep in touch, certainly. And if you've got plans to come out to Dubai, do let me know.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely. We'll definitely be in Dubai soon. One of the probably collaboration pieces that we hinted at might have something to do with Dubai and that region. So yeah, we'll definitely be over soon. So we'll meet up.
Excellent. Well, it sounds great. Look, Peter, thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure getting the full story on the brand and you. And we look forward to seeing more releases from Nomadic in the near future.
Yeah, Omar, thanks so much for having me on. And thank you so much for everything you've done with the community that you've created with MIC. It's an amazing thing for me to be a part of, and I think that you've created something really special there. So thank you for everything that you do on that front, and for allowing us to be a part of it. Is an honor.
It's
So
very kind of you to say. Thanks. That means a lot. Cheers.
thank you.
Thanks, Peter.
Have a great day.
And
Cheers.
you. All the best. Take care.